welcome to Downforce Radio and welcome to All About the W. My name's Alex Goldschmidt and I'm pleased to welcome alongside me a very, very good friend within the motorsport fraternity, L.A. Wilshaw, who's going to be joining me on every single episode of this, and this is totally dedicated to W Series. L.A., how are you keeping? Are you well?
Yeah, I'm really great, Alex. It's fantastic to eventually sit down together and, have these discussions about this wonderful new series. So, yeah, I'm fabulous. How are you?
All good, all keeping well, staying safe, staying healthy. Now, obviously, for those wondering about W Series, it is all women that are racing. They have qualified through either the inaugural season back in 2019 or through the second phase where 6 new drivers joined the grid for 2021. We've already had 2 of the W Series races in support of the Styrian and the Austrian Grand Prix. We're going to look back over that a little bit later on in the show. But LA, first of all, the way that W Series has come firing back on all cylinders after the Esports League last year, which Bikes Kivissa won, they've really gone to town. I think the astuteness of the CEO, Catherine Bonmuir, has really been shown in terms of the now application of the teams aspect that we've seen coming into W Series, haven't we?
Yes, Doff's cap, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, what a wonderful start to the season. We obviously had 2019 and that inaugural season, and the pandemic unfortunately cancelled the live racing last year, which was a sort of a bitter shame in a way, because we already knew last year that they had the 2 new events of Austin and of Mexico on that calendar. That was that initial idea of supporting Formula One as a series, and the disappointment of them not being able to live race was replaced very quickly with celebration and pure joy when I heard that they were going to support Formula One in all of their 8 races this season.
Yes, now, of course, the calendar, we've had the 2 races in the Styrian Hills. Silverstone is the 3rd round of the championship, so quite a few of the Brits, including the likes of Abby Eaton, Sarah Moore, Alice Powell, amongst others, Jess Hawkins. Round 4 goes to Hungaroring, the final weekend of July. Spa-Francorchamps, the Ardennes Forest beckons on the return after the summer break for Formula One, the 27th and the 28th of August. Zandvoort, which is an accompaniment to the Dutch Grand Prix, will be the 3rd and the 4th of September. Circuit of the Americas, the penultimate round, the 22nd and the 23rd of October. And the Autodromo Hermano Rodriguez at Mexico City, 29th to the 30th of October is the season finale. Now, for those a bit new to W Series, the cars are the Tatas F3 T318. They're powered by an inline-4 1.75 litre turbocharged Alfa Romeo engine, producing around 270 brake horsepower, 565 kilos. They're using the Hankook Ventus tyres. And it's direct fuel injection. They've got power-assisted steering, a 6-speed paddle shift gearbox with reverse gear as well. And one of the beauties about W Series here, LA, is the fact it is about the driver. It is not about the machinery that's under them, but reliability is going to be a key point in any single make championship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's very much mirroring the support series of Formula 4, Formula 3 and Formula 2, with those cars having the set, they are the same cars as well on track. And what's magnificent is that, throughout the season, as they do shuffle around, you do start to see that raw talent and birthright talent shine through, because the cars are equal. And how are these girls driving these cars? How are they winning races? How are they gaining points? How are they working up the field when there's an issue, when there's a problem, when there's a touch and they're spun around and they end up quite far down the back? And those are the moments where you see the class and you see who could potentially step up into Formula One.
Yeah, we've got a couple of bits of brief news. First of all, W Series is currently at the Goodwood Festival of Speed as this episode is being recorded. Caitlin Wood from Australia, one of the 5 reserve drivers, is currently piloting the car up the hill. So good luck, Caitlin. I hope you're going to have an absolute rip-roaring time, burning some rubber, getting rid of some hand-cooked tyres by the end of the weekend. Also, many happy returns to W Series' very own flying Finn, Emma Kymäläinen. It's her birthday today. And also, quite recently, a very, very well-known face and someone who's very much loved, not just in W Series, but also having met this person in my travels in Formula One and W Series. Annie Bradshaw celebrated her 50th year in motorsport this year, and also at the Austrian Grand Prix celebrated her birthday. So many happy returns, Annie. Hopefully myself and LA will hopefully see you at some point in the not too distant future. So a real milestone there for Annie. She was... I met her back in my days in DTM as a reporter back at Zandvoort, if memory serves me correctly. So a little bit of news there. But also, we talked about the teams a bit earlier on, LA, how this is a transitional year, as Catherine Bonmuir discussed when it was all announced. We've got Bunker Racing, M Forbes, Puma, Racing X, Sirin Racing, Veloce have even come on board. The W Series Academy, which is something we're going to touch on in just a moment's time. You've also got Écurie W and Scuderia W as well. Having this teams aspect really does give the drivers an opportunity to work within a team. Some of these drivers have already done so in their previous exploits within racing. But that just really shows that it is a team effort, because the driver's the main cog that really gets things going, but it's everyone else behind, like say press, engineers, data analysts, the people working on the cars. There's so much that goes into running an operation like this, and having these big sponsors come on board. I mean, Puma has been aligned with W Series, and especially with the news with the groundbreaking race suits that all these drivers are wearing, which are custom made, is another big sign that motorsport is changing. And it's actually changing to give women a bigger opportunity, not just as drivers, but also in the bigger myriad of the motorsport pond.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. I think that the team aspect this season is to just get them used to that idea. And I think next season is obviously going to see those massive changes, where you can explain better than me, Alex, of how those individual teams are actually going to contribute. The staff. That you write about the overalls. You write about the race suits. Overalls. Where am I? 1973.
Don't worry. I mean, the thing is that people do say it even in this day and age, race overalls. I hear it all the time in Europe. So don't worry. You're not the first. You're certainly not the last person I'm going to hear that from, LA.
Okay, because the first race I go to, I'm going in my dungarees, so it'll be fine, don't worry. But yeah, I think what's very important for these young women is to is that this series prepares them for the next step, and only creating teams and creating a teammate can do that, because regarding the girls and driving, they probably don't have very much to do with who provides the finances, who provides the race suits, who provides the sponsorship. They are there to drive their cars, but what it will provide is the competitive edge that they need, because yes, they're racing against each other at the end of the day. They're all doing that in every motorsport series that they're in. But to have that teammate, to have that one person that you have to beat no matter what, yet at the exact same time work with them, perhaps support that team as much as you can, because regarding teams, their main priority is constructors within Formula One, but a teams championship within the other feeder series. So of course the requirement will be that those girls work together in that team to maximize their points.
Indeed, and we have seen quite a lot of gelling between a lot of the team members so far. I mean, Emma Kymäläinen partnered with Abby Eaton at Écurie W, Marta Garcia and Sarah Moore at Scuderia W. You've also got Jess Hawkins and Alice Powell, Racing X. Veloce Racing. Of all the combinations, I never would have thought that Bruno Tomaselli would be partnering up with the defending champion, Jamie Chadwick, but it looks like a really, really good match. Now, coming on to W Series Academy, the two youngest drivers in the field, Irina Sidorkova and Nerea Marti. They have just recently been announced that they will be the W Series Academy racing team for the next 2 seasons, which is up to the end of 2022. Now, firstly, this is a really good step forward for W Series, I think, here, LA, because it gives them the opportunity that they're going to go on tailored programs, so media training, personal training. They'll also be ambassadors for W Series to actually inspire the next generation of women from the age of 16 to get into motorsport as a full-time career. And that just really shows the positive disruption that W Series already caused when it got announced. But 2019 showcased that W Series is here and it's here to stay.
Yeah, 100%. I think that what the academy will provide is, and what they all provide, it's like a team within a team, if you like. So not only are they within their own team within the race weekends, they're then part of a bigger picture, a bigger team. For example, the Ferrari Driver Academy, you know, for that side, if you follow the other series, the other feeder series of F4, F3 and F2, and what those academies also help do is exactly what you've just said, Alex. It gives them additional skills, it gives them additional training. Now, I'm more than sure that W Series is providing all of this anyway for these girls, but the academy will be something that little extra special, a little bit, you know, comparable to Formula 2. There are some drivers in Formula 2 that don't have an academy seat, you know, and they sort of race independently. And sometimes it actually doesn't make a difference. You see some drivers excelling and they're not part of an academy. So sometimes doesn't always necessarily mean they will produce a better driver. But what they will do with this sport being so new, and with it being, I guess, the ultimate platform at the moment for female drivers, because they are supporting Formula One, they are supporting the top of the tree. Therefore, an academy can only bring great things to this sport for these ladies.
Now, obviously, one of the biggest bits of news that happened before the season even got underway, that Tamsin Pepper from South Africa was sidelined due to the current coronavirus restrictions on travel, especially being from South Africa. She qualified again because it was the top 12 in 2019 that actually returned here to W Series. But now that has given an opportunity to other drivers. And the biggest news ahead of the Silverstone race weekend this coming weekend is the fact that 2-time Junior TKM Super 1 champion Abby Pulling gets to jump into the Puma W Series team with Marta Garcia. So the 18-year-old gets a really, really good chance. And obviously, she is being mentored by one of the drivers in this field already, Alice Powell. And the social media outpouring from Abby, from Alice, from W Series, it really just goes to show how much of a family atmosphere there is in that paddock. And the thing is that they're positively disrupting motorsport fabric, but in the right vein, they're getting noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course they are. I think it's great news for Abby Pulling to be coming up into W Series, and especially at the British Grand Prix. I mean, you know, you can't say enough great things about that, can you?
You can't. You can't.
What are your thoughts about it?
I mean, to be honest with you, I've always kept an eye on younger talents. I mean, such as Abby. I mean, I remember when I saw like the video footage of her winning both championships. And to be honest with you, there are trailblazers in this sport, and in many respects, Abby is one of them. But I think it's not just about Abby; it's about the fact of that it's the driver. It's nothing to do with orientation. It's nothing to do with gender. It is to do with skill and actually having that motivation to push forward. I see so many talents in karting, unfortunately, fall by the wayside. And for Abby to be invited to the Anglesey test, she got put through her paces. She really enjoyed the challenge. She's running in British F4 at the moment with JHR Developments as well. And to get to go to the home of British Motor Racing, round 3 as a W Series driver, and she's going to be battling with everyone else out on track. I really, really cannot wait to see how she gets on. And we all know that Silverstone is a very, very stern test indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of feel like, you know, let's hope there's not too much pressure on this young girl's shoulders, because I think that, you know, what we have to keep in mind is when a driver comes into a new series, if they step up into a new series, including, you know, when, again, I'll refer to Formula 2 and Formula 1, because for any viewers that are a little bit more familiar with those series, then that they'll understand the point that I'm making, is that even if a driver, a graduate, comes into the next series and is still finishing at the back, I have your Haas drivers at the minute of Mick Schumacher and also Nikita Mazepin. They're finishing races, they're still in Formula 1, and they're still bringing that car home. And I think it's absolutely admirable that these, you know, in Formula 1, these 3 young men that graduated this season, and then we have Abby, you know, coming into W Series, and of course we still have the rookies in W Series too. And even though we have drivers that drove in the 2019 season, this is still all new to them. Yes, they've drove around in these cars before, but this is still a brand new experience for them. Don't forget that they are now supporting Formula 1, and the expectations for them to perform as well as everybody else on that track, you know, all these ladies to already step up in these first 2 races, and both of them were absolutely outstanding. These drivers are great. You talked about the family atmosphere that they create. It isn't fake, it isn't false. Yes, these girls might have a few little issues if they come together on the track that they can hopefully sort out and resolve, but you can see it, you hear them in their interviews, they're fully supportive of each other. It's absolutely amazing to see.
Definitely. And I think at the end of the day, it's always about coming together and working for a common purpose. You know, I think realistically with the way, you know, you mentioned about the fact that it's still new to them. It is very new to them because before the season got underway, there was over 650 days of inactivity before they went over to Anglesey. And I remember the funniest thing was when I interviewed Emma Kymäläinen. Literally, I think she'd just gotten back home to Helsinki, which is where she's from. I said, and I asked her the question, because we've got some great characters. Emma Kymäläinen is the clown jester of W Series. Just the way that her Instagram, if anyone had actually seen the story where I think it was the Monday after the first race. So you had like Abby Eaton, Alice Powell, Sarah Moore, Jess Hawkins. They all went hiking. They all said to Emma, "Oh, go on, have fun. You know, it's great to go hiking." Emma had the hike from hell, apparently, which it involved the fact that she had her Samsung earbuds in. One of them fell out of her ear while she was hiking, and like she'd literally done, you know, like the slow motion bit on the movie where you're trying to grab something, you go like, no. It was like one of her earbuds dropped out. The next thing that happened, her Samsung phone, she accidentally dropped it, and a slight smash on the screen, but still usable. And then the thing is that there was a positive, I need some positive energy point on the hiking challenge. She said, "I really do need this roundabout now." And the song where it's got the line "All by Myself," where she's put the Soul Galaxy Bud into the charging case and then just shut it. And I just thought, you know what? If anyone can make light of any bad situation, it's Emma. I mean, she's funny as hell, and it's really great to have all these different characters in there. You know, we also have to give a shout out to Racing Pride, who have 2 ambassadors in this championship, Sarah Moore and Abby Eaton. Obviously, shout out to former director of communications for W Series, who is now the Chief Communications Officer for Aston Martin Cognizant F1 team. And that's a mouthful, Matt Bishop, isn't it? And he's, also the links with Formula One are already there. Jamie Chadwick is aligned with Williams, Jess Hawkins with Aston Martin. So there is so much going on with W Series that by getting from the DTM platform over to Formula One, probably earlier than Catherine Bonnier expected, was really, really a sign of how much hard work there has been. I spoke with Catherine a number of times during the pandemic before things started to open back up for W Series. And you could tell that by having someone who is so determined, she has made it work, hasn't she?
Yeah, it's outstanding. I know from from the interview that she spoke during the first Grand Prix weekend, the race weekend, apologies, that it's all been a surprise and a bit of a shock to her too. But in a way, why be surprised? The amount of work and effort that we've seen Catherine put into this, and all those around her too, it is absolutely deserved. Every single person, whether it be just an email or just a bit of support or what, whatever they've contributed to this series, they deserve everything. They really do. And I think what's more, something I can celebrate a little bit more as a female is the fact that it's almost like, yeah, well, we're ready for you. Come in. The door's open. So it was almost like it's been waiting for this to happen. It's been waiting for this to be put together. But of course, this takes time. This takes many years of planning, and the logistics must be crazy. And I personally feel like somebody like Catherine, and unless I don't have my information correct, is she should be presented with a damehood or something like that for what she's done.
Right, well, we're going to have a little bit of a look back at the first two races of the season now. First Blood, and it was a pretty convincing race weekend. Coming into the opening round of the season, Alice Powell not only took pole position in qualifying, where we saw several lap times deleted at the Red Bull Ring, but she carried that on and took the victory by a fairly considerable margin at the end of it all, where I think it was the best part of well over a second by the first ever openly LGBTQ plus racing driver to hit a Formula One podium in its history. Good old Sarah Moore in the number 26. And also we saw a really, really good turn of pace. Obviously there were dramas. We saw that Marta Garcia had a hydraulics problem and she pulled over to the right-hand side, bringing out the safety car with 8 minutes to go. And then we saw the incident between Beitske Visser and Emma Kymäläinen, which really tumbled tumbled them down the order. We saw the incident between Jamie Chadwick and Jessica Hawkins, the latter getting a post-race penalty. And that dropped her outside of the points. So good to see the likes of Miki Koyama, Jamie Chadwick, Nerea Marti and Irina Sidorkova between them gathered over, I think it was over 16 positions between the pair of them. Hence the real sort of change with regards to the W Series Academy. Gorgia Rodest standing in for, alongside Marta Garcia, took points, finished ninth with Norway's Ayla Agren running out the top 10, another one of the newcomers. But it was a race where we saw there was a little bit of ring rust to get rid of, wasn't there, LA?
Yeah, it was sort of a mixed bag, really, wasn't it? Of people getting great starts and then other people kind of getting lost a little bit, and the coming together for all of the girls you've just said were pivotal to the end results. Of course they were. It was a real kind of surprise in a way to see a couple of those mistakes happen, and a real shame, because I do feel like it did deprive us a little bit of seeing what Emma could do and what Visser could do. But the incident with Jess and with Jess Hawkins and with I can't was wrong my
Jamie
name.
Chadwick. Yeah, Jamie Chadwick. There we go.
With Jamie and with Jess Hawkins is Jess did apologize for that afterwards and take responsibility, which was lovely. We've just talked about the family, the camaraderie that goes on there, but I kind of felt like she did sort of pop in at the end about but Jamie broke early. But of course, Jamie, you saw the footage from the onboard camera that they were all backing up into that corner, and Jamie couldn't take the usual braking point that she normally would have done if there hadn't been anything in front of her. So again, it's a racing incident, it just but I absolutely do applaud Jess for taking that responsibility. And it was such a shame, I think sometimes it's awful to see a post-race penalty. Nobody likes to see that. It's always better to give it during the race, and if it's a stop go, or if we hear already it's going to be a plus so many seconds at the end, then at least and at least the driver knows. But then sometimes as the driver, sometimes is it best, Alex, to kind of judge what you're going to tell them anyway, and maybe not put them off their drive, maybe not distract them with that kind of information. And I don't know about your thoughts on that at all, but over to you.
It's always a tricky situation, but I think the thing is that by the way that things did happen, I know that Emma and Bike School have discussed it. I mean, Emma, bless her, she got a three place grid penalty for the second race the week later. And it was all I'm going to say is that, again, Emma's humor shines through, because if anyone noticed on the W Series social media, they said one word to describe the race. Well, Emma's was an industrial language word, began with S, ended in T, and I'm not going to tell you what's in the middle because it had to be bleeped. But it was just like she just said it, and that's the thing. The Finns are very, very honest. We see that with Valtteri and Kimi in Formula One anyway, and I wouldn't expect anything less from Emma, But yeah, that got things off to a really good start. Obviously, British 1-2 on the podium, but then race 2 came along a week later. Things had changed a little bit by then. And then it was Jamie Chadwick who ended up doing pretty much a repeat of what Alice Powell did in the first race. Alice Powell had some technical difficulties with her car, and then someone who celebrated her 18th birthday in between the races, Irina Sidorkova, finished second, and then Emma Kymäläinen came back and took the final step with the rostrum. We had some really, really good racing in the second race as well. And everyone had been talking about Jamie Chadwick versus Bajtske Visser round 2 in 2021. We'd been talking about it since Brands Hatch. Now, there were a couple of drivers that did actually end up stalling. One of them was Bajtske Visser. Marta Garcia and Ayla Agren also had slow starts. You had like Alice Powell and Abby Eaton, they benefited from it. But then there was a problem. The Puma teammates had a bit of a slight altercation. It was an unintentional incident, but Gojiro Dest had a slight coming together with Marta Garcia, and that was sort of round about just before the halfway point as well. But it was just like Jamie Chadwick was, there'd been technical problems with it. I think it was turbo related in qualifying for the first race the week previous. But one of the biggest things that people might not be aware of for 2021 in W Series, every driver runs with the same car all season. So there is none of this swapping vehicles like we had in the first season. And Jamie Chadwick won by a considerable margin, probably to the tune of nearly, around just over 6.5 seconds ahead of Sidorkova, with Kymäläinen running at the top 3. Sarah Moore finished in 4th. A good showing from Bruno Tomaselli. So the Brazilian made it 2 Veloce cars in the top 5. Abby Eaton getting her first points finish of the season ahead of Nerea Marti. Alice Powell, wasn't a great weekend for Alice, but she still managed to do that damage limitation that's quite crucial in the early part of season. Belen Garcia and Fabian Volvend rounded out the top 10. Visser, unfortunately, not able to get off onto a score at all in the first 2 races. So she's already sort of on the back foot. But it's looking rather close, I think, after the first 2 races. And Silverstone's going to provide a very, very different set of circumstances, especially with the composition of the circuit in comparison with the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, I mean, I have to go all the way back.
Sorry about that. I do ramble on a little bit. You know, you should know by now.
There, Alex. Oh, where do I start? At the start, maybe that's a good place. Yeah, I mean, that stall, you know, from Visser to go from second all the way down to 16th. But I think that the one thing that you did miss out on there was she restarted that car and she got going. Which was absolutely fantastic to see, you know, and you know, at one point she is, you know, traveling around in 16th, and then she finished in 11th, P11, didn't she? If I've got my fact, yeah. If anything happened post race with penalties, you're going to have to let me know. Yeah, and I actually think that was an amazing recovery, and it goes to show the quality of this young female driver, this young Dutch girl. Then of course you mentioned, you know, Alice. Now we did sort of neglect to sort of mention that Alice dominated that first weekend, unbelievably dominated, and it does seem like that if you qualify in first at Austria at the Red Bull Ring, then you're probably going to finish first, like as you said, Jamie Chadwick did, qualifying in first this weekend and finishing in that first place. And you know, we're right about Moore, you know, started in 8th, finished in 4th in the end, with an incredible last minute overtake with, you know, Bruna Tomaselli, and she'd been stuck behind her. Tomaselli had been holding quite a few of the girls back for almost the entire race, but doing a tremendous job at holding those girls off. Don't forget, you know, don't think she's just holding them up going to the shops, you know, and you're trying to get you know, to get to the checkout before this girl did a fantastic job. And of course Sarah Moore overtook her at the last seconds, you know, of the race, or last minute of the race. But what we have to I kind of feel like I wanted to say that Tomaselli was actually the driver of the race for me, because she could have lost her concentration at that point. She could have, you know, anything could have happened, and the other girls that were very, very close to her could have very much have taken that position as well. But she held her own, and she held on to that 5th place. And I was, you know, standing up and applauding the girl. And then we look at Jess Hawkins, you know, who started in 14th, finished. Where did she finish in that race now? Because she almost
Jess Hawkins. Yeah, she finished in 16th, so it was really close, I think, between, you know, all drivers. I mean, Miki Koyama had a bit of a difficult race, the Japanese driver for Sirin Racing, partnered with Vicky Piria. Vicky finished 15th at the end of the race, Jess Hawkins 16th. Also, there were some dramas for Nerea Marti, I believe, because there was a little bit of front wing damage whilst battling away with Sarah Moore. Yeah, it was an overtake attempt on Sarah Moore from Nerea Marti, but then unfortunately the Spaniard suffered some front wing damage. It
was kind of handy, wasn't it? Because at least Abby, you know, managed to stay ahead there and finish in P6, which is great from a British point of view, of course. Indeed. But not if you're a Marty fan, though, maybe not. But, you know, I think Kymmelainen had a good start, you know, at the beginning of that. We did see, you know, Alice Powell have a real problem. He did mention over the radio about having a lack of straight line speed. And I'm not sure if there was any conclusion to that at all. And, you know, and then we did see the two teammates, as you say, come together, Redesti and Garcia. Initially it just looked like a spin, didn't it? But it was a you know, slight altercation there between the two girls. Um, yeah, I mean, it's still an amazing race. I mean, you're never quite sure when there's a back-to-back race of how it's going, the second one, how that's going to transpire compared to the first one. Because I felt that first race of the weekend was just, an explosion onto the scene of amazing female drivers. And the second race, it didn't disappoint at all, especially as when I mentioned a little bit earlier about, the girls to look out for are the ones that can come right from the back and end up finishing in an incredible, respectable position, maybe not always on the podium, but certainly in a respectable position, as Jamie Chadwick did last week in the very first race. I mean, there's no question of why this girl is the current champion. It was a tight championship in the first inaugural season, of course it was, but Jamie still won out and won through, and it was so easy to see why from what she did in the Styria race, to see her after that incident, to make her way up the field. So
I completely agree. I think one of the biggest points, obviously, when Kimi Raikkonen lost her front wing in the first race, we saw everything bunched up. That's one of the key sort of deciding factors of how easier it was for Jamie Chadwick to gain positions, because there were like 3 to 5 cars battling over the same bit of tarmac. Kimi Raikkonen was locking up going into the braking zones. I mean, her Tassus T318 was understeering like a good one. But it just goes to show, like you say, pivotal points can decide races. And what's more pivotal is how close it is between the top 3 heading into Silverstone. Jamie Chadwick leads on 33 points. Sarah Moore and Alice Powell, it's 4 points between the 3 of them. 4 points. Irina Sidorkova, Fabian Volvend and Emma Kimalainen ran out the top 6, followed by Belen Garcia, Nerea Marti, Bruno Tomaselli. Miki Koyama rounds out the top 10, and there's also been points scored by, Abby Eaton's in 11th on 8 points at the minute, so good for her. Gojira Dest, who steps away from the Puma W Series team, 2 points for her, and Norway's Ela Algren rounds out the top 13, but Vissa, Marta Garcia, Sabra Cook, Vicky Piria and Jess Hawkins yet to score this season, but Silverstone up next, LA. Different kettle of fish altogether, fast, flowing, technical at points. It's going to be a real challenge, isn't it, for the drivers?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, whether some of the girls have been at this circuit or not before, they certainly weren't at this circuit in these cars in the W Series. I think off the top of my head, and please, chip in, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the only Formula One circuit they did race, official Formula One circuit, was Hockenheim, in their inaugural season. Yeah. Kind of Formula One familiarity, if you like. So this season, of course, we mentioned earlier that every race this season is a Formula One circuit, because they're in full support of Formula One. And Silverstone is absolutely going to, it's not just going to challenge the girls, because it challenges the top of the tree, it challenges the Formula One guys. It's going to allow them the experience of a racing circuit. I mean, don't get me wrong, Austria is an absolute racing circuit too. Of course, it is the Red Bull Ring, but British, a lot of these girls are British. We're going to have 5 Brits on the grid, come next race. And what was it? Was it Stirling Moss said, being at home can give you half a second a lap, or half a second, and maybe the Brits will all just step up to the plate. Although I'm more than sure that there are going to be a few of those girls just trying to spoil the party as well, because there's some very experienced racers as well in this group, of W Series girls. And of course, you still have the don't underestimate these rookie girls, because they've already shown how great drivers that they are. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Silverstone is really, really going to test everybody. It doesn't matter whether you are a rookie in this championship, if you've had previous racing experiences in a multitude of categories, whether it be karting, tin tops. Vaisky Vissa currently running alongside the likes of Tatiana Calderon and Sophia Flörsch in the Richard Mille Eureka team in LMP2 in WEC. There is so much experience. Jamie Chadwick is running in Extreme E with Veloce Racing alongside the legend that is Mr. Stefan Sarrazin. You've got the likes of Michaela Atlin Kotelinski in there, Katie Munnings, Jensen Button, a whole host of drivers in there. Matthias Ekström, multi-time DTM champion and World Rallycross champion. Johan Kristoffersen, that's won World RX in there as well. Molly Taylor, an Aussie, who's won in rallying. So there is so much pedigree in this championship, but looking at the circuit itself, just over 3.66 miles. The current lap record is held by one Max Verstappen, who's currently leading the Formula One Championship going into that particular round of their season. The circuit basically is on the border between Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire. Towcester is 5 miles away, Brackley 7 miles away. So you've got 70% of the Formula One teams. Aston Martin is literally just over the road. But I think really looking at it from this perspective, the biggest challenge is, especially when you get these 270 brake horsepower Formula 3 cars up to speed, that you got fast sweeping corners. So you've got the likes of Copse, Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel. You've got Stowe, which is the right-hander going into the main wing complex at Vale and Club. Abbey Farm to the Loop through into Village. Another technical section. Then you got the good old school part of the circuit, a bit that I love, where you got Brooklands, you got the Hangar Straight, you got Arena as well coming through there, Luffield, Woodcote, and heading into the iconic Copse Corner. I still remember going there 2009, watching Jensen Button in his Braun GP 001 flying through Copse at about 170 miles an hour and hearing the cars go over the rumble strips. I think this circuit brings it all, and it's a circuit that drivers, irrespective of where they are racing or where they've raced previously, they've always said that Silverstone is a real fun circuit, and that's what we could see on the next coming round, couldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think it sort of goes to show that in recent times there's been some circuits that have adjusted their track, or curbs, added curbs, or gravel traps, whatever they've done to just alter the races that are upcoming from maybe a previous year. But as far as I'm aware, Silverstone doesn't really need to make many changes, because it gives everything. It doesn't need to create an extra, advantage here or there for the drivers, because the driver, it has opportunities everywhere. And we've discussed the cars being all the same for the W Series drivers. And in one respect, that there's a danger of perhaps there being a procession, because there is no DRS for these cars. But what we saw, in that final lap with Sarah Moore and with Thomas Selly, there's still a slipstream. There's still an opportunity to eventually pull out and get past the driver. And not just because of slipstream, but just because of that extra special something that those girls have. And that's what I'm really looking forward to at Silverstone, because put anything technical to one side, or any incidents to one side, in wheel-to-wheel racing, Silverstone is a circuit that should deliver for all of these girls.
Well, this is the first edition of All About the W here on Downforce Radio, so we're not going to put any predictions in this time. I'm not one for predictions. I probably would assume you are as well, LA, but I think we're really looking forward to what's going to be happening at round 3 of W Series in 2021.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really rubbish at predictions. I haven't won the lottery yet, so it's obvious that I'm not very good at it. But I might have a little punt on the football, over the last few weeks. But I'm not really that great at it. So the unfortunate thing, about that is one of the teams I put money on has a real chance of winning, and it's not my home team.
Oh no.
So by the time this, well, when are we putting this out, Alex? When's this?
It's going to be out every Monday before the next race weekend that takes place on W Series. So we'll have a bit of time to digest and have a look back on the races. For those that are wondering, if you are in the United Kingdom and you do want to watch the races again, you can actually use the All4 player. Now, obviously, there was a bit of news that happened. Obviously, part of the presenting team had to isolate. That included Billy Munger, lead commentator Alex Jakes, but I have to give credit where credit is due. Super sub that he is, the legend that is Mr. Ben Edwards, jumps into the commentary box. And also props to Naomi Schiff for doing such a great job as the interviewer and presenter. David Coulthard always provides his opinion, so we know very, very well that he does his level best. But a real credit to the team at Whisper Productions, who work with Channel 4 to provide coverage here in the United Kingdom. But yeah, I think realistically, the gloves are off in W Series. Who's going to win at Silverstone? Well, myself and LA will be back for the second edition of All About the W here on Downforce Radio. Thank you very much for tuning in. LA, thank you very much and welcome to the team.
Thank you, Alex.